Hey guys, this is the Shooter's Mindset, episode 406 with Dominic Thompson and Levi Sanderson. And we've got co-host Greg today. You might notice that I, Corey K, am introducing everyone, which means Jen is not here. Greg, how did that go?
That went as smooth as a rocky road.
Thank you. Like a Cadillac with 4 flat tires being drugged through a gravel parking lot. So nobody wants to hear about me. Everyone wants to hear about the NRL22. So before we start, Dominic, Levi, why don't you give us a little bit about yourselves and how you got into the NRL22?
Sure. Levi, you want to go first?
Oh, really? Okay, sure. I got into competition shooting quite a few years ago, and I'd always had an interest in precision rifle. It was just, kind of an expensive sport to get into. And then I stumbled across NRL22, and I started following that and started attending those matches. And slowly but surely, now I'm pretty much exclusively doing that for the past handful of years, is doing precision rimfire. I run a match just south of Nashville here in Chapel Hill, Tennessee, at Strategic Edge. Run that every month. Do a big X match every year at night, a night match. That's a pretty good time. But other than that, I also help out on a national level with the NRL22 Course of Fire and the NRL22 leaderboard, and processing all the scores from all the matches all the way across the country, and of course any other advisory activities as well.
Oh, that's super cool. I have got to pick your brain about that night match. I would love to hear some more about the admin side of that.
It's fun.
Yeah. So what about you, Dominic?
So I started getting into precision shooting back in 2016. Buddy of mine, Clark, from San Antonio, he got me into precision shooting. First started with centerfire, and then in 2017 or 2018, I got into NRL22 just as a competitor, and really loved it because, one, you didn't have to wear hearing protection. Two, It was every time you pulled that trigger and you saw a bullet impact at 200 yards or beyond, kind of get a chuckle because you never would have thought that a 22 really goes that far and be precise and accurate. And then ended up moving to Clarksville, Tennessee in 2019, and since then I've been a match director for NRL22. That same year I became a NRL22 advisor, pretty much where I was the national coordinator, and I still am, where I work with the Course of Fire designers for each month, where we come up with the Course of Fire that everybody in the country uses. We go back and forth numerous times about different versions. So the product that you guys actually see typically has about anywhere from 2 to 4 revisions before it actually ever gets published. I deal with the rules committees, with Levi, with practice score. I also run an NRL22X match on an annual basis. Anything and everything dealing with NRL22, NRL22X, myself and Levi, we have a hand in it.
Okay, that's awesome. So y'all are both running matches. Y'all are both on the advisory board, and I know it's not just a napkin sketch the night before. Y'all are both doing stages for the NRL22 that goes out every month. A lot of people don't understand how much effort goes into a fun stage that's also fair. I mean, when you're designing a stage like that, what do you think is like the best way to describe your goal in any stage? Like, just pick any overall stage design. What do you want to see in a stage?
Ideally, what we want to do is we want everybody to have fun, but we also wanted to make it where majority of the shooters and your mid-pack shooters have a decent hit percentage. We don't want to cater to the best of the best shooters, because it's going to be too challenging for every single person that actually out there to compete. So when we're looking at a good Course of Fire or a good stage design, there's a couple of different things we're looking at. What we're doing is we're looking at how many targets, the size of the targets, how many movements, and what prop. I explained to a lot of Course of Fire designers, if you plan on having a crap load of movement. For instance, if you wanted to do 10 positions, one prop, then don't have more than 2 targets, and those 2 targets need to be very, very close to one another in distance wise, and make them a little bit bigger in size, because if you're trying to get precision and accuracy at the same time, a majority of everybody's going to time out at those kind of stages. We also don't want to have gimmicky stages. I've had designs that came in before where it almost seemed like a CrossFit exercise, where somebody wanted a competitor to lift a cinder block over their head, and I flat out told them, I was like, you know what, that's an unsafe act. We can't do that. It needs to be something that is fun yet challenging.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's hard to balance.
It is a hard balance. I mean, we've got especially for the 5 NRL22 stages, we've got 5 stages every month from the same set of props, the same set of targets. And, people want to see variety, right, and they also want to see something they haven't seen before. But at the same time, people sometimes will overcomplicate it when they throw in they'll submit. So people submit these courses of fire to us, and then we revise them and enhance them and, proof them before sending them out. But sometimes, we lean in the direction of getting too overly complicated. And we got to remember that sometimes you gotta keep it a simple engagement with, a simple repeating pattern that you can do without having to write every single shot and every single position down. We're still trying to appeal to people that have never been in the precision rifle world before. So we're really trying to be focusing on simplifying things a lot more than, I think there was a period of time there where they got kind of difficult. So we're definitely moving in that direction to try to keep things more simple.
Yeah. I like that you say you want to cater to kind of that middle of the road, but still shootable by anyone, because we all know the top guys are going to win anyways. Like you can look at a list of any match. It doesn't matter if it's rimfire or centerfire, and you've got a good idea of the top 10 already. So I really like that y'all do something like that.
Yeah. It's like, no matter what you guys do, my buddy Scott over here in the comments, he's pretty much always going to win my match, no matter how hard, how easy they are. He's got a collection of trophies from me.
Well, you gotta get better then.
I haven't. I'm working on it. I'm gonna come back for him one day soon.
Hey, speaking of which, I've been chasing it since I started shooting NRL22, and I finally, last month, I finally got a perfect score. I didn't miss a single shot, and I got second at that match.
But that sounds really familiar. Someone I know could never come to Navasota and get first. Dominic, do you remember who that was?
Hey, look, man, when I went down there last summer to go shoot some rimfire, because up here in Tennessee, and we typically have a lot more wind than you boys in Navasota do.
Definitely.
When I went down there and we shot at Navasota, and I think it was an 8-stage match. I dropped 6 shots all day. I was all like, oh man, I got this in the bag. It's got I probably helped maybe second, at worst third. Nope, I was in 6th place. I was like, what kind of garbage is this? So yeah, no, I feel Levi's pain, but it was funny when Levi messaged me and he's like, man, I did great. I cleaned the course of fire. And I was like, yeah, no kidding. Did you win? He's like, nope, got second. I was all like, how? And he's all like, Joey shot faster than me on the time stage. I was all like, oh, that sucks, bro.
It was fun.
I do have a quick live related to that. Prentice Wink wants to know who's bought more chocolate dipped snow cones, you or Clark?
Well, so the way that works is if you win, if you beat your buddy at a match, you are responsible for buying the cones. So I can tell you now, Clark has bought quite a few cones. So, but I've been known a time or two to beat Clark.
There you go. Attaboy.
All right. We got a few other live ones. Some of them we're going to circle back to that I'm writing down right now. And we all moved here. Ruth wants to know, why does Dom's beard have its own identity?
Who, Ruth?
Yeah.
Ruth Susie?
Uh-huh.
Well, first of all, Ruth, it's Yukon Cornelius. Yes.
Yep. Christmas came early this year.
That's right. Christmas in July, baby. No, man, being in the Army.
No, we're still in May.
Well, I know that, but Nationals in July.
Thank you so much for that, Levi.
Being in the Army, I had very limited times I was able to grow a beard. And the only time I ever was able to grow a beard was when I was deployed. But now that I recently retired, I was able to grow my beard out. So
now you're great getting all those years back.
Now I'm getting all those years back. You're right. So I mean, the beard's been growing,
on your face.
the beard's been growing for a year now.
It's magnificent, sir.
Thank you. I take quite pride in that.
I got one more quick live. Can you guys tell us a little bit about the 2021 Rendezvous with Destiny NRL22 X match?
You know what? Let's not talk about that.
Who asked that question?
Yeah, who asked that question?
That's one of the people we told you not to field questions from. I'm sure of it.
Is it
Probably.
who was it?
Hold on, I've moved over to another page real quick.
I'm kind of curious now. What the heck is this?
All right, so
he earned a very good initial
yes,
set of initials from that match.
So to sum it up, the 2021 Rendezvous with Destiny X match was my very first NRL22 X match that I hosted. And it was a pretty cool match. It had a very cool Army theme to it. All targets were Army themed, all World War II themed, actually. Every stage was named after a major battle that the 101st was in, because Rendezvous with Destiny is the motto of the 101st. And what I forgot to calculate was the hittable area of those novelty targets.
Oh,
So the winning percentage of that match was 61%. So that has earned me the title of Dick Move Dom.
And
But
DMD follows them everywhere now.
Yeah, DMD is pretty much my nickname everywhere I go. But since then, I've ran another X match and the hitting percentage was 85%. So,
okay.
I've redeemed myself, but that still doesn't go away.
I mean, those numbers are still a little low.
85%? No, that's what you want. 85 to 90% is what you want for a match.
Yeah, people get angry if it's 100%. We learned that.
Yeah, you should
Never
have
that was the
100%.
goal.
So there's a lot of changes this season to NRL22. I think the largest of this is the new classification system. Let's kind of talk through how the system benefits the shooters and how it works.
All right, where do we start with that? Well, I'll start a little bit with this was something the community had reached out to us pretty repetitively about. You get people showing up to a match and they feel kind of demoralized when they, come out and compete against people that have been doing it for a long time, and they would just, annihilate the course of fire, and they would have trouble, hitting more than a handful of targets on each stage. So people asked for this quite a bit, except nobody had a kind of a method to the madness, like it's great to have a classification system, but as good as I do in all the other sports out there, there's definitely ways of gaming things and sandbagging things. And, it may not apply very well to precision rifle. So I never had any suggestions. And then this past season, I had a suggestion thrown my way, and we walked it through the paces, and we ran it against all the data on file. We, tweaked it, modified it, had a handful of guys working with that and helping with that. And we finally kind of threw together the system that we launched just this month. It went live. So it's a classification system, and it's going to be based solely upon your experience within the NRL22 format and your skill level within that format. So it's doesn't matter what kind of rifle you're shooting. Doesn't matter if you're shooting a Voodoo or a base division rifle, or what kind of firearm you're shooting. You're going to be shooting against novices or marksmen or sharpshooters or experts. So you can kind of shoot against people of your similar skill and experience level. We had folks coming out to matches. They would be brand new shooters, and they'd be coming out with the nicest gear. Like the word's getting out that it's fun to have a really nice, Voodoo or Rimex 22. So people would come out to the matches with the top end gear, and they'd be competing against the experienced guys that have been shooting this for years with the same top end gear. And of course, they're still a novice. So, they're still a novice, so they would still have a hard time. So they didn't really have anywhere to fall. So then they're like, do I put my Voodoo on the shelf, and do I go buy a base division rifle so I can shoot kind of factory and production type class stuff? Well, that's why we kind of came out with this classification system. The whole thing is built on credits. You get a certain amount of credits every time you win your specific class. So amongst the novices, if you win against all the novices, you're going to get so many credits depending on how many novices you beat. Same thing with marksman, sharpshooter, and expert. And there's a ceiling with the amount of credits you can earn before you're bumped into the next classification. We've got a chart built out on the NRL22 website, nrl22.org/classification. And that kind of breaks out, if you're shooting against two other guys in your same skill level. Oh, good. Look at this. We're going to get a screen share there.
Look
yeah.
at that.
So, yeah, I was wondering if we were going to get a screen share. How about that? So if you're a novice, which we were just talking about Corey, he's going to jump into NRL22 and NRL22X. Now, that's the other thing about the classification system. It goes throughout all sports within the NRL22 umbrella. So NRL22 monthly matches, as well as NRL22X, and anything else that may or may not be on the horizon. But everybody starts out at novice. Once they've earned enough credits, which is 6, once they get 6 credits, they'll bump up the marksman, and they'll start over at 0 at marksman until they've earned 8 credits in marksman, and then they'll bump up to sharpshooter, and then, on up into expert. And of course, the higher you move in the classifications, the more matches you have to win with, the more against higher skill level people. So that's kind of how it breaks down there. You do get credit if you're a novice coming in like Corey. I would hope that you would do pretty well. So you would get credit for not only beating anybody in your skill level, but also people above you. So if you were beating marksmen and sharpshooters, you would get a little bit. The system does recognize that. So you would progress pretty quickly if you're coming in as an experienced competitor.
Okay. So it looks like if you're a sharpshooter, you're not getting much from beating novices. It's really based on people in your class and above.
You're not getting anything for beating novices or marksmen. You're only getting credit for beating sharpshooters, or if you outscored an expert. So like say there was, let's go by the second tier there, 3 to 9 people in your class. So if there was 9 sharpshooters, you would get 1 credit if you got first place out of all 9 of those sharpshooters. However, if you beat 2 experts, that would bump you up to the 10 to 14. So then you would actually get 2 credits for first place amongst those guys, and another 1/10 of a point, or I'm sorry, another 1/10 of a credit for each higher class shooter you outshot. So like if you outshot 2 more experts, you'd get 0.2, so 2.2 credits from that event.
Okay. So this actually encourages kind of your higher end guys to compete against each other as well.
Yep.
If they want to keep progressing and maintaining, because I'm assuming there's a decay factor built in as well.
There's a what?
A decay. So let's say you've got an expert and he's got to maintain this rating by beating other experts. So it's not like in other systems where you get your 300 points and then you take a couple months off and then just come back after practicing, a month for the finale. You've got to actually maintain something.
So there, you don't decrease in your
Mhm.
skill level and your classification level, but your
Okay.
credits do expire.
Okay.
So if you're a sharpshooter and over a 24-month rolling period, if you can't accumulate 12 credits, you're just going to hang out there in sharpshooter.
Okay. Gotcha.
But if within 24 rolling months you accumulate over 12 credits, you're going to bump up into expert, and that's essentially where you'll live.
Okay. So you're an expert forever. It's like GM for life.
At this point, yes. We
Super.
did look
I
at
like it.
going back down, but we
Yeah.
we decided that it was probably more beneficial to keep people at a skill level that they've achieved rather than letting them
Yeah.
decay back down.
Yeah.
No, I think
I
it's
agree with that.
something to, yeah, you want to aspire to something, right? You don't want to have to like keep going back and doing the same thing. You want to have like a goal and you achieve that. That should feel good. That should be a real accomplishment.
Yeah.
So I like
sure.
it. Yeah.
You don't want, there's lots of people that take, short 1-2 year breaks from shooting and come back, and they may not be exactly where they were before, but they definitely don't need to restart back down at the bottom, because that's not going to be fair to the newer shooters.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was the goal of it. It's like, we just want guys that are coming out for their first time, because the whole sport of NRL22 is supposed to be inviting to people to get into the sport and experience it for the first time. And we want to show those guys that, like, hey, amongst the novices, you actually did pretty good today. Like, you're not shooting against Dominic, Thompson, or, some of these top shooters out here. You actually are shooting against the newer guys and the novice folks, no matter what equipment you're bringing. So don't be so hard on yourself. And we got guys that, ask, what should I buy? Well, now we don't have to refer them to any, base division equipment anymore. We can say, hey, why don't you get the Bergara B14R and, get something that you can continually, upgrade and kind of move up and, continue improving your equipment.
Yeah. I like that. So you got a bunch of other changes, and one of the lives we got was kind of related to this, but you've got OGs now is one of the other things. Can you explain that and kind of the thinking behind that one?
The OG.
Tom, you want me to take this one again too, or do you want to take this one?
I'll take it. So we had OGs, Levi, for 2 years now. So we had OGs adaptive, and the reason why we did OG adaptive was to allow our senior competitors who may or may not have physical challenges to still be able to shoot the course of fire with a modification and still come out and have fun. I've met quite a few older competitors that, they just don't want to shoot from a bench and do, bench rest all the time or anything like that.
Yep.
They think it's pretty boring. But still be somewhat physically active to an extent. So for the first 2 years, what we did was we did OG, which was 60 years and older, and adaptive in one division. And adaptive was pretty much for anybody that had a legitimate physical limitation that could not do the course of fire. So for example,
this is like back injury, neck injury, something that's it's really painful to go down and get prone, something like that.
Absolutely. Like for me, I shot OG for 2 or 3 matches, or adaptive for 2 or 3 matches, because I had knee surgery, and within 2 weeks I was shooting matches. But I was shooting it as an adaptive. And I think my first match, I think I shot a 280 out of like a 540. So I mean, it was bad. But it was still, it allows for folks to, like I said, who have those physical limitations to still shoot. Now with the 2024 season, what we did was we've actually separated those two now in separate divisions. Whereas with OG it's just a senior, essentially a senior category, where if you're 60 years old, you're still shooting the exact same course of fire, no modifications. It's just a division for the more older competitors. Adaptive, you will only find at the match director's discretion, and 99.9% of the time match directors will run an adaptive recommendation that we actually put on the monthly course of fire. But you will not see adaptive in NRL22X, and you will not see adaptive at the national championship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That makes a ton of sense. And I mean, we've got guys that they can't do certain movements, and it's just like, all right, this is a formal way of recognizing that. So I love it.
Yeah. Now,
you also,
now on the adaptive part, like me and Levi and our advisory team, we've gone through like, what about this person? What about that person? Because Levi probably gets more adaptive folks than any other club in our area. And essentially, a lot of people ask like, well, if I can't do this one specific task, does that put me in adaptive? The answer is no. So for instance, we have one of our local guys, he's actually completely blind in his left eye. And let's say we have to shoot a stage that requires a couple of shots support side. Well, we're not going to put him in that adaptive category in of itself, because he's not physically unable to do he doesn't have a physical disability for every single stage. He just has it for those few shots. So that individual would remain in the division that he signed up for. But let's say you have somebody that's got bilateral knee replacements, can't bend at the waist, can't really get down, and that person needs some sort of an accommodation for every single stage, then yes, that person would end up being an adaptive individual.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
All right, I want to hit a couple of lives that we have around. First, back to classifications. Scott asked, where'd it go? What if there's nobody else in your classification or above for the match? So will that not help move you up in classifications at all?
So let's lay that out into a scenario for people. So he's saying, what if I'm the only sharpshooter at my event? Or what if I'm the only expert at my event? Something like that. There is opportunity for you to earn credits. However, you got to realize you could be the only sharpshooter at a match of novices if in theory. So you shouldn't get a whole lot of credit for beating up on these novices. So the only way that you can earn a credit without with there being less than 3 people in your class at the match, so 2 people or less in your classification, would be if you won the entire match. So you won high overall for the entire match, and the match was at least 20 people. So if you think about most matches, especially even in the monthly matches, if you get at least 20 shooters, you're likely to have some pretty good shooters in there, even if they're still marksmen and haven't classed up to sharpshooter yet. They're still probably pretty good competitors that just haven't made it. So that's kind of the threshold there. If you think about an NRL22 X match, almost all the X matches are over that threshold. So you'll and it's unlikely you'll be the only competitor there unless you're like Chris Simmons or something. Maybe you're the only expert up there at the match or something. He could still get a credit for winning the entire match, but only if he wins the entire match.
Yeah, but that makes sense. I mean, if the guy is asking, if I'm the best shooter at the match, well, one, yeah, you're expected to win the match, and you should prove it. Like that's the classification system.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So Johnny asked for a little bit of clarification, just to be sure. Adaptive and OG are now 2 separate divisions in the new season, correct?
Yes,
that's correct. And their updated practice score has pushed out an update to the Android side of the app. They have not pushed it out to the iPad or the iOS side for those Apple users. But you can still accommodate it. You can actually go into the shooter registration and you can adjust the divisions to list, old guns and adaptive. But on the Android, if you've got practice score up to date, it'll already have all those divisions listed out in there and the classifications listed out in there.
And then
practice score.
Kent asked a good one, but I've got to find where it is. I don't know, something along the lines of, let's say in your situation, Dom, where you had a surgery and you had to shoot adaptive for a couple of months, and then you go back to shooting your normal class. How would that affect your season scores if you were shooting adaptive for a few months and then go back to standard?
So what we do is what division you sign up in, those are the points that accumulate for said division. So for instance, if I end up shooting OG for 3 months, I will have 3 months worth of scores for OG adaptive. Or excuse me, in my case, it was OG adaptive at the time. For the 2024 season, let's say same scenario, I shoot adaptive and I shot 3 matches in adaptive, I will have 3 scores only for adaptive. As soon as I'm no longer shooting adaptive and I go back to open, whatever points I get for open, it'll only go to open. You cannot shoot a division and those scores within that division follow you into another division.
Okay.
Yep. And we're in the 2024 season, just so everybody is clear. We haven't shot the 2023 championship yet, which of course is in July. But the 2024 season for NRL22 started just this month, just about 2 weeks ago. And your scores on the leaderboard are following you. They are in effect this season, so they will be used for invitations to nationals. I think that's a pretty important thing. That's been a big change for this season, is that the leaderboard points will count for your invitation to nationals. And another super exciting thing about that is that your points that you earn on the leaderboard will follow you into the championship.
Oh,
So
nice.
we will no longer, so we'll no longer have somebody be able to win the championship and be crowned an NRL22 champion without shooting any NRL22 matches. So the 2024 championship you'll have a match champion, somebody who won the entire match. You'll have an NRL22X champion, and then you'll have an NRL22 champion. So could all 3 be the same person? Could be 3 different people, under any combination of the 2 or 3.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. So y'all also changed base class this year.
Yep.
Looks like a price increase.
So the reason why we did that is we had a lot of issues with MSRPs increasing. I know Tika's, they went through the roof big time. CZ 457, specifically the varmint one, and with a combination of, I think it was the Arkin EP5 and a couple of other CZ variants and model variants, actually put the competitor over the $1,200 threshold. Man, we're talking $7 to $30. So it was so small. So, and because of inflation of all the rifles and scopes going up,
everything's up 20% this year. Any industry.
So we opted to go ahead and increase that another $100 to account for those specific issues, because we didn't want to worry about having somebody who was base division just recently and then end up going into open.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's one of those things where you want to take care of your shooters and you want to make sure that they have a good experience.
Yep.
Yeah.
A couple lives again. First, I'll answer this one. Brian's talking about he has a voodoo and open and worrying about class and this, that, the other thing. Brian, shoot the gun you like, have fun. There's my CZ. I love it. I shot it bone stock where it would have qualified for base class, but there was one little thing that I accidentally did to it that put me in open, but I've always shot it in open. I beat voodoos with it all the time. Shoot the gun you love.
I'm the same boat. Is shoot what you want to shoot and don't worry about what division you're in, especially now that we have classifications rolling out. Essentially, like Levi was said with the classifications, me and Levi, we are in 2 different classifications. I'm a sharpshooter, he's an expert. He shoots a Rimx, I shoot a voodoo. We're both in open, but I'm not competing against him. I'm competing against other guys that are sharpshooters. I know guys that are sharpshooters that have a base division rifle. I'm competing against those guys. So shoot what you want, shoot what you can afford, and have fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
here's another scenario that people don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I was gonna say one more thing about the classifications. We got some really talented young guns out there in the community, and like you'll have a brand new young gun coming in, and they'll just be, the other young guns will just smear the floor with them because they're so good. So we have so now those young guns will be competing against other sharpshooters and other people in that skill level. And I was curious how these young guns would view that, because no longer can they just basically guarantee a win as a young gun. They would have to actually compete against, guys like me and Dominic and in the sharpshooter category, sharpshooter classification. And they loved it. They're like, yeah, this is cool. So it was kind of neat.
Yeah, no, it's awesome seeing that kind of like the ego check of like the guy that comes out and he's been practicing and he's doing well. And then like, your 13, 15-year-old kid just skull drags everyone and takes first. But yeah, I mean, like the gun thing, it's 2023. There's probably 6, 7 different manufacturers that can make a gun that's accurate enough to shoot every target and hit 100%. Just come out. That's the important thing. Come out and have fun. Safety third, but come out.
Safety third.
Safety third. Greg Stewart asked for clarification. Is the Ultra Match 2022 or 2023 or 2024?
The NRL22 X match this weekend is the last X match of the 2023 season.
And then
a little bit of overlap there.
A little bit. Then Johnny asked for some examples or justifications for shooting in adaptive division.
Okay, so just getting out of surgery or recovering from surgery like I did, having knee replacements, having severe debilitating arthritis, where you essentially any physical disability that prevents you from shooting every single stage as prescribed. If you need any sort of a modification to the prescribed course of fire as it is written for every single stage, you belong in adaptive.
Yeah, but if it's something where there's one position, or you only have one eye, one hand, but you could do 99% of everything else, then you should probably still be shooting in regular divisions.
Yes.
Yeah, one thing to remember about adaptive, especially this season, is that it really only lives in the monthly course of fire. It's just an opportunity for people to come out, shoot the course of fire, have a good time, and shoot precision rimfire. Like you're not going to have adaptive in NRL22X, and you're not going to have it at the championship. So it's just about people that normally wouldn't be able to come out and kneel and go prone and do all these different things. They're able to come out and enjoy themselves.
Yeah, I think that's
and I started following that and started attending those matches. Things, they're able to come out and enjoy themselves.
Yeah, I think that's
and I started following that and started things. They're able to. You got your audio turned on over there, Greg?
I don't think
Greg's got like 75 tabs open.
He's got all these different feeds going at once.
That didn't sound like it was me because I muted myself and it didn't stop. I think I have one more live. Gotta find it. Oh no, I'll get back to those. You guys have also made some improvement to the leaderboard kind of leading into this season. Oh, that reminds me what the question was. Johnny said something along the lines of, I always submit my scores at Saturday night and come in Sunday morning and they're already online. And Levi, he wants to know if you ever sleep or
nope, he does not.
Oh, it's kind of like I see those things come in and it just kind of eats at me, and I'm just like, I got to get it posted. It's like I feel like that's one of the most important things the NRL22 can do for the community is just get the scores, posted and published and processed. It's like, that's one of the main benefits of being a member is being able to like see your scores on the leaderboard and see your scores published. So I definitely try to do that efficiently as possible, which, by the way, it's a big announcement too. We've match directors used to have to submit all their scores on spreadsheets. Now we have the ability now where they can actually just submit the practice score URL, and it's still not instantaneous to the website. I still do have to go through and proof it and apply any of the classification credits and that sort of thing. But they can simply just log on to the website, put in their practice score URL and check out, turn in their match. And so it's a much more streamlined process for our match directors now.
Nice.
I just
That
like to
helps.
let you know that I literally purchased Real Excel just for you, Levi, because I felt so bad with the first ones that I sent in using the whatever they call it when it comes on the Mac. You're like, what? How did you break it so bad? I'm like, I don't know.
I don't even have Excel, man. I just use Google Sheets, man. I just use it all on Google.
Oh,
And just kind of, just for the audience, y'all do not know how many hours this man puts in the leaderboard, score submissions. At the end of the day, Levi and myself, our job is not, I want to say our job. Our goal is to provide you, the end user, an exceptional experience. No matter how many hours it takes us. At the end of the day, we want it to be streamlined. We want it to be a good quality product, because this is literally, we do this for the love of the sport. We volunteer our hours day in and day out, just to make the NRL22 an awesome and amazing sport and community.
And as a match director and competitor, it's been very obvious the amount of hours and hard work that you guys have put in. So I do want to say in front of everybody, thank you guys so much for everything that you have done. I mean, like Johnny was talking about, the scores are instantaneous. I don't think Dom sleeps either, because every time I'm up late at night and I'm doom scrolling and it's like new post, Dominic Thompson 3 minutes ago, I'm like, it is the middle of the night. So sometimes Dom ends up being the person I talk to late at night on the internet because he's still up, and I'm like, hey bud. But it is really cool. You guys have done an awesome job making match directors' lives easier, making the experience for the shooters better. So we do all really appreciate that. And the comments are currently reflecting that as well. What else we got new this year? New props. I can use my tripod.
Well,
everybody can use my tripod.
So the new props. So big thing on the new props is, for years, we've had people asking, hey, can we use tripods? Well, NRL22 monthlies is one of those. It's an intro into competitive shooting. So we wanted to make sure that the spirit of the stage remains as is and that we don't use tripods. So this year, the committee and Levi and myself, we kept going back and forth. You're like, should we allow tripods? Should we not allow tripods? So we came up with, we can have a dedicated tripod for a stage, whether that is a standalone prop, or if that is an additional piece of equipment that the competitor can use as rear support. So the way you're going to see that is, and you'll see that for the very first time in July. Todd McBee is actually the one who's designing the Course of Fire. And you could potentially see it as shooting off of the tripod itself. There will not be a hog saddle. There will be no gamer plate on there, nothing. It will just be the tripod itself with no ball head. And you'll put your bag on there and you'll engage the targets as prescribed. Or if, let's say, we use the ladder, or we use the new NRL22 pyramid, you could use it as an additional piece of equipment as rear support. It's an option, doesn't necessarily mean you have to use it, but it is a great opportunity for you to practice that at a monthly Course of Fire, to get you prepared for an X match, get you prepared for nationals or another discipline. But that tripod will be the dedicated tripod for that stage, and everybody has to use the exact same tripod. So if that means, Greg, you as the match director, you have multiple tripods, and the tripod you have in the background, if you want to say, hey, this is the one everybody's going to be using, then everybody has to use that. Because let's say you have somebody that has that, or a match director that's using a very flimsy tripod, right? As a dedicated one. And you want to use your fat boy or your really right stuff or your two vets that's got really thick telescoping legs, you have a more of an advantage being more stable than all the other competitors that are using that inferior model. So we have a minimum requirement for tripods, and everybody has to use the exact same tripods. And I know some match directors, they've asked, why do we have to buy another piece of equipment? You don't necessarily have to buy it. If you have somebody that's willing to let you use that tripod for that day, that's an option. We've provided numerous different products that folks can purchase for the tripod stage. Ruth Susi was actually awesome and was actually able to get with a company to give NRL22 match directors a 15% discount off of a Leofoto tripod. I won't tell you what that code is. We posted that in the 2024 NRL22 match directors page. And if you're a match director, you'll have that code. And then the second prop that we came up with, or
Well,
that we, go ahead.
Let's talk about, I want to throw one more thing in about tripods just to tie that off before you could jump into the pyramid. So it's written into the rules, but just to clarify it for the folks listening in. So tripods are still not allowed to be used within the NRL22 course of fire, except if they are the prop or the piece of equipment on the stage that is using the tripod. So, and it's only the tripod that the match director supplies. So that's the thing. You still can't use your tripod on every other stage. This is still a sport that's supposed to be, friendly to new people that are coming in, and we don't need people having to think they have to go buy a tripod to bring it out to an NRL22 match. But this still gives them an opportunity to shoot a stage here and there where their fellow competitors, and this is where the community can come into play, is you guys can show these people, the newer shooters that have never shot off of a tripod or used it as rear support. You can really take this as a time to share the love and kind of teach them how to use that and how they'll see other competitors use that on a more advanced skill set.
Exactly.
And two more things on that last thing. Number one, we mentioned Ruth, and we were talking about awesome people that do awesome things for the NRL. So we can't leave her out of that. She's been kicking butt, helping out. And I think that it's, I never would have thought of how you guys have implemented tripods, because I'm not much of a tripod shooter. I get pleasure out of watching 7 people go into a stage and struggle with a tripod, and then going in and just absolutely, just like, literally, guys, look, you just put your knee right here and it's as stable can be. I love it. But they're also fun. So it's really cool. I never would have thought of this. So good job to whoever's idea it was to implement it this way. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Wasn't our idea. It was a match director that submitted it. So again, the community, it was a great suggestion.
And then the second prop that we introduced was the NRL22 pyramid. One thing that we like to do, or that we're wanting to do, and the community has been pretty much backing us on this, is, to break up the monotony and to break up having a hard time coming up with a unique, creative, and a fun yet challenging course of fire is new props. So the goal is to potentially add a new prop maybe every year, maybe every other year. It's cost effective, but that's still versatile. Not saying that's going to happen next season, but we're hoping. So the NRL22 pyramid was actually, the design concept came from Jack Lanhart from Gopher Rifle and Revolver Club. And the first time I saw this was at one of Ruth's matches that she ended up posting on her social media, and I was all like, I need you guys to send me some specs on that because that looks pretty awesome. And at the time it had only 4 2x4 rungs on it. And when we started really interacting with the community and the match directors were like, hey, we need more props. And we're like, well, what can we do? We can do a skills barricade. We can do this. And we're like, and then Ruth was all like, well, what about this? And we're like, you know what? That's actually pretty cool. So her, Justin, and Patrick Middleton, who's the match director for West Tennessee Rimfire, they came up with the cut sheet that you actually find on the NRL22 website. And this thing is, one, it is stupid solid. It is a very, very solid prop. It is so versatile. You can do high prone, you can do standing, kneeling, sitting. It's endless. That prop will be making its debut in the July course of fire as well. And Levi and myself, we've built it. And man, I tell you what, it's stupid fun. And we look forward to seeing what the community does. And the design you have up on your screen right there is the wedgeless design. And it is simple cuts. If you can operate a saw, you can build this. Levi ended up.
You don't even need to.
Oh yeah, you can go to Home Depot.
You could
and tell them, hey, cut it to this length.
cut all these lengths for me. I got these boards in my cart. Can you cut them to all these lengths? And you could go home and screw it all together. Like that sheet that you just had up there, it made it so simple. It was Patrick Middleton. Did you shout Patrick out already?
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you have shooters in your club like I do, then you have like Mike Bell that's just like, hey, someone needs to build one of these. You want me to throw it together for you? And I'm excited to see it next weekend. But
so the cost for that thing, Levi, what would you pay, like $60 to build that whole thing?
Yeah, and that was I even opted for the treated lumber because I was going to leave it out at the range rather than traveling it around. So that was even with the treated lumber and the hitch pin. Like I went all out on that thing.
Nice. Springing.
Yeah.
So
Levi's a rich match director.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
Just kidding.
Haven't retired like you yet.
No, not yet.
That's the way I feel when I pull out all my bino. Like binos is something that have somehow accumulated here. Like I won a really awesome one a couple months ago off of the NRL22 monthly show from Loophole, and it's just like, oh, here's all the glass. I feel rich, and then I realize I'm not.
Yeah, the loopholes, they're pretty nice. I have a set as well.
Yeah, do you got the ones with a little reticle in them?
Okay, look, I'm not that rich.
Listen.
Okay, so to be fair, that's the Mark IVs, and they made those for like, I don't know, they're like a 10-year-old bino. And every time we see the refs, we're like, hey, be really cool. Like the new Sandiums had this in my piece. That'd be awesome. Like, yeah, we're really trying, guys.
Yeah, no, I have the Alpine, I think like BX1s or BX2s or something like that.
Yeah.
They're great. They do what they need to do for NRL.
So in the past and this year, qualifying for nationals has been a bit of a ordeal. I don't want to say ordeal. It's not been a super clearly defined process for the monthly NRL22 matches. How has this changed for next season?
Well, I am very, very glad and happy, ecstatic actually, that we have a leaderboard, because as a competitor and as a match director, I see both sides of this. As a match director, you are put in a rock and a hard place because the rules state that the match directors should keep track of their local scores and, base the invites that they receive from NRL based off of the high 3 scores from their club. The downside with that is, as a match director, if I only get 4 invites, but I got 7 people that want to go, who do I take? Do I take my highest scoring out of every single person? Do I take my 2 highest folks within each division? Do I take the 2 people that constantly come in, day out, help me set up the range, break down the
Oh.
range. Like as a
That's
match,
who I'm taking.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you are,
There's no question there. That's who I'm taking.
yeah, exactly, right? So, but then as a competitor, you're like, well, I outshot these folks. Why am I not
Yeah.
going?
Yeah, that's
So
rough.
the new leaderboard, man, it takes everything away from the match directors. Invites are solely based on performance,
Yeah.
going into the 2024 national championship.
And that simplifies everyone's life.
Yep.
Yep.
Not to mention all the back end legwork that we got to do on this end when all the clubs submit their interest levels. I mean, this year was amazing. We had 50% of the invites that are available go to NRL22X, and then the other 50% go to the monthly clubs, the monthly matches. And so there was about 120 slots. We got over 250 slot requests just from the monthly clubs. So it's been awesome. It's such an awesome response. We're so happy to see such a interest in the national championship. But yeah, there's a lot of legwork on the back to run through that. So we did submit the very first invites for X went out last night. We could only submit probably about 50 or so invites out to the competitors because we got, the last X match of the season is happening this weekend.
Right.
But once those results are in and processed, we'll send out the rest of the X invites, and we will, see how many of those are accepted. And then then after that, we're going to promptly get the club level invites out so everybody can get the word out to their shooters.
Very nice. Cool. I'll look for that in my email.
Yeah.
So we're about at the midpoint of the show. Remember, if you're watching us live on Facebook, ask any questions you may have live in the comment section of this video. We'll ask it live on air. Other ways to catch us, you can always check back on the Shooters Mindset Facebook page. The video stays up there forever. We usually upload to all the podcast apps the night after the show. And then finally, everything eventually ends up on the Shooters Mindset YouTube page, which is an awesome place to look up past episodes.
So with nationals, you've got obviously the match coming up soon. What's the date? What should people be preparing for? Is there anything new? Who's the match director? What's the idea for the new nationals?
So nationals is going to be in Maxton, North Carolina. It's hosted at Griffin Group Solutions facility.
What a great place.
It is. It is 7 through 9 July. The match directors are two-time national champion Chris Simmons and John Cole. They're the match directors. What to prepare for? 90-second part times.
Nice.
Yep. Chris believes in 90-second part times. So me and him have had some conversations about hey, this is not your Punisher or AKA the Tar Heel Stomp match. The goal is for people to have a lot of fun but yet still challenge them. So 90-second part times. Make sure if you plan on going to nationals and you're driving, please bring a canopy. It's going to be hot, so we're trying to get as much shade for everybody as possible. Tripods, Chris says, will be allowed on the stages. How he plans on utilizing them, whether they can be deployed prior to the clock starting or deployed when the clock starts, that's yet to be determined by him. On our end, we don't get to see the course of fire. That is solely the match director's responsibility, and they keep that close in hand. And the reason for that is myself and Levi, we qualified to go shoot the championship, and we plan on shooting the championship. Right. So we do not want an unfair advantage, and in my opinion, that would be cheating to shoot nationals. So that's why anybody that has any dealings with the course of fire design is ineligible for shooting that match. And that even goes for X matches. Let's see. It's going to be hot, so prepare.
Would you say hydrate maybe the day or two before?
I would say the week before.
Maybe don't partake of late night activities that would
Nope,
dehydrate
definitely.
someone.
You definitely don't want to partake in that. You definitely don't want to do liver therapy. Saturday, Friday and Saturday, social activities are still being worked. Chris and John said they got some awesome things planned and they're still finalizing everything. Friday will be the ROs are going to shoot designated stages so that they can get familiar with the stages, yet still have fun and have the opportunity of actually shooting most of the match. Additionally, on Friday, there will be a tune-up that folks can partake in, and any funds that are earned from there will go to actually the ROs. So the ROs are going to get rewarded as well, which is awesome that Chris and John are doing that. Pretty much all I have. Levi, you have anything else?
No, you covered the national championship well. I think I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out there. It's always a good time. I'm excited to having new folks out as well. Everybody is always nervous about, oh, I don't know if I'm good enough to go to the national championship this year. And I'm like, dude, if you can earn an invite or if you can get one from your club, go shoot it. It's going to be one of the best stepping stones in your shooting career is going and shooting that national championship. It's going to like help you understand that like, hey, I shot against, the best people in the country. I am progress, it'll help you progress as a shooter probably more than any other event that you attend. So
You also left out, you get to hang out with like one of the coolest ROs around. Myself, just saying.
I like what you did.
But no, it's a good time. I know at my club, with this being 3.5 to 4 hours away from me, I had a lot of interest this year. Previously, I've sent one shooter to nationals because most people that are into it at the level that a lot of my shooters are, it's just their weekend activity. And I have people that travel pretty, 2-3 hours to come to the match. But even then, they leave in the morning, they're home by dinner time, whatever.
Yeah.
But getting to travel to a different state with a couple hundred of your fellow shooters, they've yet to enjoy the match shenanigans, which are always bound to happen at any national level precision rifle match. So I think it was 2 years ago that one of my shooters went, and he's still talking about it. So
awesome.
Harry asked a question that kind of ties into something that we were talking about sidebar. ROs shooting matches for score, both at this match and at NRL22X matches.
Awesome. We were looking to jump into this.
Yep. So nationals, the ROs at nationals, that their scores won't count because it's nationals. The nationals is the culminating event. So they're just those ROs are just shooting the match for fun, essentially. Now Chris
and to beat their RO friends.
Say again.
And to beat their RO friends. Top
well,
RO is a coveted
rights.
award.
Yeah, it's for bragging rights. Now Chris may be doing some stuff for them, for prize table. I don't know. That's solely on at his discretion. Moving for the 2024 season, we sent out a interest survey to all NRL22 match directors and NRL22 members that were 2023 members. We had an overwhelming response that wanted RO scores to count. Now, the way it was, the way we had done it was offered it was either a standalone match or it was a match where they shot the day before and those scores were integrated with the main event match. It was hit or miss. So essentially what we came up with is that in order for an NRL22X match director to host an RO match and those scores to count, that RO must have a minimum of 15 competitors that shoot the match the day before the main event. Those scores will count as a separate NRL22X match. They will not be integrated scoring. They will have their own points for that specific event. Now, if let's say me and Levi, we go to a match, we RO the match, we shoot the RO match on Friday, but we fail to show up on Saturday to RO, we get DQ'd out of those scores because the RO failed
Yeah.
to adhere to their
RO.
commitments based on the rules. And the reason why we did that is we want to ensure that the folks that are actually ROing are standing by their commitment.
Yeah.
Just
But
be-
I think the separate
So-
match makes so much sense for this sport. One, you're an RO, you're rushing through the match at twice the speed, right? You're never going to be at your best as far as, you know, having it split over 2 days if it's a 2-day match. But even then, it's a great way for a match director to identify an issue with the course of fire the day before, because at a separate match, you can make that change and you can make it the best event possible. Now, and I'm not saying
Yep.
use the ROs as guinea pigs, but you've got that option. And it's
You
a
sure can.
fantastic way to, you can only do so much as like a match director when you say, all right, we've done this at the club level. I think we can push this to 90 seconds. And then, oh, you can't do that. You got to make a change, right? So yeah, I think that's the best possible way to do it. Definitely give the ROs as much as you can back to letting them shoot the
Yep.
day before so that they get to have fun and they really get the experience of what the stage was like that they're shooting. I think that really helps every other shooter get that like positive experience of like, yeah, I shot it yesterday. It was hard as hell then too.
Yeah, I can tell you now, like I was a dedicated RO for Levi's night match, the night match before Christmas, this past December. And
that's such a dope title.
it is. You should see the
so
banners
good.
and the trophies we made.
Oh,
That he
so
made.
good.
But I tell you what, man, freaking I could not find one person that had a single bad thing to say about that match because we had dedicated ROs.
Yeah.
The great thing about dedicated ROs, you know, because we have some people that seems like, well, what's the point of having a dedicated RO? Well, the big thing is previously you have one of two options: run dedicated ROs or run a squad RO. And as
Yeah.
we all know, as competitors and match directors, it's hard running a squad and being competitive for
Yeah.
a national level event. So not only does dedicated ROs take away having a competitor to be squad mom essentially, but what it does is it provides consistency across the entire event. If
Absolutely.
a director says, hey, ROs, this is how I want you to shoot this stage, we all shoot that stage, and Levi is the RO for that specific stage. Levi is running that stage for 10 squads all
Yep.
day long, identical, versus having
Yep.
10 different squad ROs that may run a variance of it, or they have some sort of misinformation or misinterpretation during the stage walkthrough. And again, it makes the match more enjoyable for the competitors, which is at the end of the day, our goal
Yep.
as match directors. And it just runs everything more smoother. And people get to essentially do this around with their friends a lot more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
a few things
absolutely.
about that. A few things about that is we had, you know, like, you know, there's a big difference between having, oh, here we go with the audio again. There's a big difference between having a warm body as an RO versus an experienced competitor being an RO.
Yes.
Those experienced competitors are going to see those little edge hits where they just fly off the side of the target and the target doesn't move, but it like hit 6 feet over in the dirt or whatever it may be. Or they're going to see, you know, competitors who are trying to, you know, cheat a little bit or trying to do something that's a little bit outside of what should be acceptable. But you got these experienced competitors who want to shoot the match. Like that's why they enjoy shooting the match. So that's why we put out that interest survey. And like Dom said, we had a lot, like the community really wanted their scores to count as ROs, and they would volunteer to be ROs. But then at the same time, we still had a decent amount of people that said, hey, I don't think the scores from Friday should be mixed in with the scores from Saturday. So we came up with the best of both worlds there, where the ROs will shoot on Friday or the day before, and it'll be a separate match from the competitors on Saturday. One other change in NRL22X this year is that you take your top 3 scores are what's going towards the points race. So you've got 3 scores now instead of 2, and only one of those scores can come from an RO match. So you can RO as many matches as you want.
Yeah.
You can RO as many matches as you want, but you can only take your top RO score into your points race. So you can't go and just RO 3 matches and win against 15 people 3 separate times and have a 300 score.
Well, darn,
No, but it's good that you do count it, because you want them to have every opportunity to be that seasoned competitor, right? So like around here, we host 2 matches. It's nice to see the guys that RO the first one in January, big 2-day match. They come out in April and shoot. You want to see them have that experience, and you also want to see that community thing of like, yeah, this is our local club too. We want to give back. Like, so I think that, that's the best compromise. That's awesome.
I agree. And from an RO's perspective, like, I love ROing and I love shooting, but gosh, it would be nice to separate the 2 of them, because I agree that, if you are, I love both having and being a dedicated RO. If you're on a stage for 2 days straight or a day straight, after you start to learn where the misses are going to be, what you're going to see, you RO that stage better the more times you do it. And just having that at a match, it's good for everybody.
And one thing I want to add is that if any the NRL22X match directors are looking at running dedicated ROs for your upcoming matches, try to make it where you can incentivize your ROs. Find a title sponsor. Make sure that title sponsor takes care of your ROs, because without your ROs, your match will not run as smooth as possible.
Absolutely.
Make it where they can shoot for free. Like me and Levi were bouncing ideas off each other, because initially I was going to charge like 50% less for my dedicated RO match. But then, the group that we talked to, we have like a little chat group that we talked to, and they're like, well, it would actually be cheaper for me to shoot as a competitor, because all I got to do is pay for my match fee was $90 versus I pay $45, and I also got to get a hotel. So I was all like, you make a valid point. I'm going to do everything I possibly can where all my ROs get the exact same amenities and benefits as a competitor, and not a single dime comes out of their pocket for the actual match. And that's exactly what I'm doing for my X match in September. Is all ROs are shooting for free.
Yeah. As a match director, ROs are an expense. I mean, you're feeding them the day before. You're still giving them, trophies. You're still getting them all the match swag, all the other things. Dedicated ROs are an expense for the match director. So remember that when you're purchasing and paying for events, and they're $80-$90, it's like, a lot of that's probably, hopefully if it's an event with dedicated ROs, that's going to help, defray that cost and provide that service to you as a competitor.
Yeah.
So do you guys think that Precision 22 in general has a larger market cap than Precision Centerfire?
Well, I can tell you now, there's a lot more rimfire shooters in NRL and the other series than there is in Centerfire. I can tell you now that in NRL22 alone for the 2023 season, we had over 1,400 members. So
I think it was only over 4,000. I would say yes. The answer to your question is yes.
Yeah. So I guess where that comes from is, to host a rimfire match, you need a 100-yard bay, maybe. It doesn't have to be spectacular, but there's how many ranges do you pass with 100-yard bays before you get to a centerfire range, right? So from that perspective, it seems like 22 has 10 times the number of potential ranges that can host these matches and can get people into the shooting sports. So that, do you think, how do you best think you can capitalize on that, because the NRL has classically been thought of, especially on the 22 side, as extremely new shooter friendly, extremely youth shooter friendly. But how do you keep those people that you recruit and really expand the sport so you can take advantage of, there's 4 different ranges in town that are hosting these matches.
Well, so it's that scenario actually is exactly how mine and Levi's community works. Is Levi's only about an hour 45 minutes away from me. So I'm an hour west of Nashville. Levi's about an hour south of Nashville. We have, Levi, 7 clubs within 3 hours of each other. And myself, Strategic Edge, which is the club Levi runs, Eagle Eye, Barren River Rod and Gun Club, Regulators Rimfire, we all got together and we're like, hey, which weekends are you guys wanting to run? Like when I first got here in 2019, I started mine on the second Saturday. Then shortly thereafter, I think Levi started his, and we got together and we're like, hey, how about you run yours on a different weekend so we both can support each other's clubs? And then more and more clubs started getting on board. And, that's when we created a Facebook group and we started talking amongst each other. And we're like, hey, let's all have different weekends, the best that we possibly can. And what that does is it allows consistency along with all the competitors, predictability for them to actually schedule their life around our matches if they choose to.
Right.
And it also allows match directors to support each other as well as their club members supporting other clubs.
Isn't it nice as a match director to show up at another match and just be a shooter?
Yeah.
No, because we end up borrowing that squad.
Yeah, you always do something, but
yes, it is nice not having to run it.
Yeah, that community aspect that you're talking about, where you've got, guys that'll travel to each other's matches and then help support each other, I think is where you can really build the sport into something more than it is, because everyone's looking for a community. Everyone wants a place to be, right? And if it's fun and there's other people and they're enjoying it and everyone's together, I think that's what builds it.
Yep.
And that's a unique thing about Rimfire too. Try to hit a match every single weekend with Centerfire and see how fast the cost adds up on that. But I mean, I'm not like casting shade anywhere because I love Centerfire too. But like with Rimfire, like you can actually shoot every single weekend and go to the range in the middle of the week, and still not break the bank, and you don't have to travel near as far. Usually you can find places that are closer by, with the more more ranges with 100 or 200 yard bays rather than getting out to 1,000 yards and that sort of thing. So
yeah, definitely.
And then also earlier your question is like, how do you maintain your membership or your members that are constantly coming back to your club? It's honestly is having additional stages. One thing we always recommend match directors to do is don't just run the standard NRL22 stages. Add a couple bonus stages.
Okay.
Introduce some things like a tripod. Introduce different. Exactly. Introduce different props. Make the stage harder. 90-second par times. Use props that are not part of the NRL22 standard barricade list. And what that does is it prepares competitors for events like a national championship, events like an NRL22 X match, or another series. What they do. So it's not just about those 5 specific stages. And a lot of times, like our match directors in our area, we run an option 2 for the Course of Fire. And for listeners that don't know that, so the standard Course of Fire that's published has 2 options on there. An option 1, which uses the standard target pack, and then option 2 is a combination of either a stressor, which would be a mag change and or a lower par time, or a or transitioning and target engagement within a stage that's a lot more challenging. And a lot of times when we do a longer distance, so for instance, if we have a target at 50 yards and a target at 85 yards, we may use a 2 multiplier on the target size, but we may use only a 1.5 multiplier on the distance. And what that does is it may provide a slightly larger MOA size target for option 2. But what that does is it entices those match directors to go with option 2 and allow those competitors to stretch their legs on the distance.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Yep.
I like having an option as a match director. It helps. It really helps.
Yep.
Yeah.
For
That
me,
that was something that. Go ahead, Greg.
I was gonna say for my match, I have so many new shooters and so many experienced shooters. I normally end up going with option 1. But then my bonus stages is where I have a lot of fun with. I built a mover for it. Last month we shot the bonus stage off of a tripod to get everybody kind of used to that. Let my guys get a little bit warmed up so they got a little bit of edge on everybody else for next month when that comes out.
Absolutely.
Matt asks, what's Levi and Dom's thoughts on mulligans?
NRL22 or NRL22X?
Was not specified, so both.
So NRL22, no, absolutely not. NRL22X, we have it written in the rules that they are allowed. I have mixed feelings about it. I think that it's a great way of covering additional costs when running a match. Levi has always told me, he's like, well, you should consider that also part of the entry fee. However, if you do, let's say you're doing a $75 entry fee to an X match and you offer a $10 mulligan, now that cost is $85. Well, some people may not want to do mulligan because they feel that A, they don't need it, or B, that, they're just there to experience it and have fun. I'm either for it. I don't care either way. I know some people have that belief that, when you show up to the match and if you screw up a stage, that's it. That's your fault. Me personally, the only time I've ever really used mulligans is if I just had a royal mental mistake, or just equipment malfunction. Like there was an NRL22X match, me and Levi went to the Yeti Spring Fling, and man, did I have a mental mind meld. And I was like, I didn't know what the heck I was doing on that stage. And I was like, I'm mulliganing this. And I think that was like our second last or third last stage of the day. And I ended up picking up a couple points. Now I've seen that go exactly the opposite direction where
now we're talking.
somebody did not exactly do better on that, or they broke even, and it is what it is.
I'm a big
You
fan
guys,
of using
you
my
guys heard
mulligan.
Dom, right? You guys heard Dom. He said he only ever uses his mulligans if he royally screws up or has a mental mistake. Dom, how many times have you shot a match where you haven't used your mulligan if you had it?
Once. I did it once at the Sweaty Yeti. I completely forgot that I had a mulligan in my pocket.
Nice.
Well, there's your mental
freaking
blunder
stage.
right there.
There you
There's
go.
the mental block.
Yeah, on the last freaking stage, I put in my, I grabbed something out of my pocket. I was like, oh my God, I completely forgot I had a mulligan. And literally the stage I just came from royally screwed up. And I was like, dang it, I should have called for a mulligan because I knew I could have shot better. It's just, I ended up doing wrong target engagement, ended up dialing wrong dope. Like everything that went wrong on the stage, I did wrong. And
Including not using your mulligan.
and not using my mulligan.
Oh, that's funny. Johnny asked you guys if you could get Travis to mention the top 5 clubs for attendance on the Course of Fires instead of just the top club. If you pass that along.
That's a good idea.
I think Johnny
like that.
Johnny runs a match that has really good attendance, and I think he's probably came close a couple times, and that'd be cool to hear.
That's awesome. I know he has come close a few times. I of course get to see the stats of all the clubs, and something that I'm changing at my club for this season, and I would encourage the match directors out there too, is, when you're setting your match prices, sometimes, you'll have a set price for your attendee, and then you'll have a lower price for young guns, or maybe a lower price for somebody that belongs to your range. Well, this season, I'm actually modifying mine to where everybody's at the same rate, unless they're an NRL22 member. Then I'll give those members a decreased rate. And that's something that is a good way to, promote the benefits of membership to your attendees. They're able to, the rest of your match attendees can see their classifications against the people they're shooting against, and it just gives them a way to, have a bigger benefit on their membership.
Yeah.
Yep. So where would both you guys like to see the NRL22 in 5 years?
Let's see, 5 years, man. It's been, since its inception, it has grown drastically every freaking year. My goal every year for the NRL is to be the premier rimfire sport there is, period. And that's this year, that's next year, and that's every year past that.
I like it. What about you, Levi?
I'm just curious to see how long Dom's beard will be in 5 years. That's where I'm at.
Hey, it's getting there.
Okay, so like personal goals. As far as shooters, what are each of your goals in the sport? I mean, Chris isn't shooting the finale, so you could say winning it.
Hey, look, somebody's got to win it. It might as well be one of us.
Yeah.
So somebody has to win the match.
Yep.
Somebody has to lose the match. And then there's going to be a whole bunch of people in between. The highest finish I've gotten at the championship was 10th. And then after arbitration was like 14th. Yeah, that sucked. And the sad thing is I'm the one that ran arbitration because Tyler Frainer, he's the executive director of match operations. He ended up having COVID that year. So he called me like, I don't know, the day before. He's like, hey, bro, I need you to run nationals as the director of match operations. I got COVID. I'm not showing up. I'm like, oh, great. So yeah, during arbitration, 4 people had, we had to adjust their scores, and it ended up bumping me down to 14th. My goal for this year is a top 10 finish.
Nice. I like it. I believe in you personally.
I would I would enjoy a top 10 finish as well. I personally got into shooting just because I enjoyed it. Like I used to work every other weekend, so when I wasn't working, I would just shoot whatever match was available, and it was, if it was pistol, or if it was PCC, if it was USPSA, IDPA, Steel Challenge, whatever it was, I was shooting it. And then all of a sudden there was NRL22, and I'm no longer working on the weekends, so now I shoot it every weekend basically. And I've never had a goal of going out, and I don't want to. I'm not. My goal isn't to go out and win. I mean, but my goal is like when I'm shooting a stage, it's like I want to hit every freaking target I'm shooting at. Like I'm not trying to go out there and beat Dominic. I'm just trying to hit every target. And if at the end of the day, if I end up winning the match, I do. And if I don't, I still had a hell of a lot of fun trying to improve my skills and be a better marksman. So that's just kind of how I roll. So.
Yeah, the way I see it, it's not about beating any person, except when me and Levi are competing against each other. Then it's against
of course.
Well, that's we're shooting with Ruth. Then it's always nice to beat Ruth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then it's always oh, this hurts.
It's getting to be quite hard though.
Yeah, she's pretty good shooter.
It is.
Me personally, the way I like to use it is that I'm shooting against myself. I'm shooting against the course of fire. Every shot that I drop means that I'm going to be lower on that list. So like Levi said, the goal is every single stage is to hit every single target that I'm shooting at. Absolutely. Doesn't always happen that way, but
yeah,
we get pretty close.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, Greg, I think we're down to shout outs. I don't really remember how Jen does this, so we'll just start with Levi because I believe in him to win.
Well,
I believe Levi's going to win too. As an expert.
that'll be awesome. I don't have any shout outs for any companies per se, but I do want to shout out, of course, my wife for putting up with me spending so much time in giving back to the sport I love. And I also want to give a shout out to our Course of Fire advisory team. Paul Dallin, Lynn Bigelow, Ruth Susie, Dominic and myself. We put in a lot of hours between the Courses of Fire and the rules. I also want to give a shout out to a few people that helped with the classification system. Eric Guile was the original one that out of Minnesota that originally suggested the methodology of how it could work. Justin Carbone helped a lot. Mitch Tromberg out of Minnesota. Some local guys around here, Newt Schneider, Manuel Lopez, John Teitenberg. A lot of guys went through this when we were, really hashing things out and trying to make it the best scenario we could for NRL22. So I want to thank all those people for all their help and support, and I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Dominic?
Ditto.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to top that, Levi. Appreciate that.
Dom, you're thinking Levi's wife.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to top Levi is what I heard.
No. Thank you, Aaron, for letting us borrow Levi. There has been numerous times where I can hear Aaron in the background saying, "Is that Dominic you're talking to again?" And yeah. And me and Levi throughout the week, I mean, we probably have, 4 or 5 phone calls a week at least. Sometimes 4 or 5 phone calls a day. Shout outs, man, honestly, it's the NRL22 community and the match directors. Without them, there is no way we could be doing what we're doing. Not just that, but for the 2023 season, I want to thank every single match director that has submitted a Course of Fire that we ended up using. I think since NRL22's inception, we've only had 1 Course of Fire that was repeated, and that was voted by the NRL22 members. So what, NRL22 has been around since 2017, so 6 years of unique Courses of Fires every single month. Speaks volumes with our community. My biggest shout out is to my wife as well. She knows that if I'm not doing anything at home, it's typically dealing something with NRL22. And I know a lot of time it annoys the hell out of her. But she knows that this sport keeps me sane. So yeah, definitely big shout out to her. Shout out to Manners, DI Precision, and Krieger for hooking me up with what they do. And that's pretty much it.
Nice. Greg?
Well, I wanted to thank you guys and everybody working to make the NRL22 what it is. It's so much fun. I enjoy it. All my shooters enjoy it. So thanks to you guys. GSL Suppressors for making my NRL22 matches so nice and quiet for me. Shooters and Sharpshooters of Augusta, PDC Custom, beautiful lime green rifle chassis over there. Shooters World Powder, Hunter's HD Gold for my blind self. I can actually see targets with those. And then Fix It Sticks and Vortec, because it's nice to have nice portable things, because I don't do the gun maintenance at home. I do it halfway through the match when stuff stops working. So pretty nice.
Great. There you go. You're the reason we have a maintenance station, Greg. So I've just got 2. Obviously, you guys for coming on and spending as much time as you do growing the sport. It's really awesome. And then I've got a silly one. I was a little bit late to the pre-show. I'd like to give a shout out to my taxidermist, Mr. Zumwalt, Brazos Valley Taxidermy, my snow goose, and the Federal Premium that helped take him down.
Awesome.
I think with that, the silliness ends.
We'll see you guys next time.